All right, y'all. So today I wanted to talk about, and it's been on my mind for a long time, but I want to talk about opportunities and opportunities versus opportune timing, and just the difference between how those two things are experienced. Sometimes are more opportune than others, and some opportunities don't present themselves in the most opportune times. And the relationship between opportunities and art or being an artist is a very delicate one. And there is no level of, I believe, training that can really, really like teach you how to navigate that dichotomy. As an artist, the in like our entire careers, perspectives, and livelihoods are tethered by the serendipity of opportunities. If you are talented and you encounter no opportunities, you will go nowhere. And untalented people sometimes will get, or subjectively untalented people will get more opportunities than some of the more, diligently talented people. In my life and in my previous videos, I've discussed how I'm fortunate enough to have gotten many opportunities to showcase my value and worth. And I've navigated those differently based on different times in my life. Circumstances, ego, and just how I view myself has always kind of dictated when an opportunity was either regarded as an opportunity or an obstacle, at least in my eyes and through my lived experience. When I like art school, for instance, when I went to art school, I went to do animation. And from animation, I slid into a sequential art program with a motion media design, minor. And I did that so that I can have the opportunity to do more creative works in broader fields. Whilst working amongst the TV and film people, apart from the fine art people, I got many or I was given many opportunities to, act. The goals that I had were script writing and storyboarding. But more often than none, when I was on set, circumstances would often lead to me, being an extra or co acting amongst others. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but one of my professors just, suggested that I lean a little bit more into it because at that time, people were requesting to work with me more than I was getting requests to do like storyboards for them. They wanted me in front of the camera, not necessarily making the decisions behind the camera. I took it poorly. I would say it was a lot of ego in the way. I didn't think much of performative acting. I, in my core, I am a visual artist. Like the paintings that I make, the drawings I do, they are my, core means of expressing the everything. It's just like I was dyslexic as a kid. I couldn't read well. So drawing and visual art has been something that's just tethered to my identity. The visual artistry and like, sonic artistry, music and art have been everything to me. So when you get rejected, or not necessarily rejected, but when your visual artwork gets muted for an opportunity to do something that you might not, you know, necessarily see a lot of, I'll be honest, seriousness in, then, you take a step back and you have to reevaluate how you're looked at and how you view yourself versus what the world sees in you. Like, I've never viewed myself as overly performative, but I guess amongst friends, a personality does exist here. And acknowledging that was a hurdle for me. And by the time I acknowledged it, I was faced with a different obstacle. The obstacle was how people were viewing me versus how I viewed myself. And that showcases itself when you see the type of roles that people suggest you for, or the type of roles that were written specialized with you in mind. I was getting a lot of roles based on just how I looked. The guy with the tattoos and the long hair. That it became a stigma and a box, I would say. So I was being casted or requested to read for various different roles with that in mind. And I never felt like that was me. I felt like that was how I looked, but that wasn't who I was. Because to me, the tattoos and everything, like, I don't talk about it much, but I was a sailor at one point in my life. I was in the Navy, traveling the world, getting a bunch of tattoos. So these are just like a memento from all of the places around the world that I've been. And the hair is just is what feels right. So I didn't like, this is my organic self. And more often than none, the roles that I would get suggested to do would be like a diamond in the rough kind of, you know, a tough guy in certain spaces. I have a lisp. I just don't think you can be tough with a lisp. Like, I've never been intimidated by a guy. Actually, Mike Tyson has a lisp, but I'm nothing like Mike. I'm the artist and a lover, not a fighter in any capacity. So I would get these like reading opportunities to read for a character that was like, freshly released from jail or something like that. And it would just feel so strange that this is how people saw me and this is what they thought. Like, I'll give you three examples. I have done student projects and independent projects where I've been the stoner, the stoner next door neighbor that is chill, but like worldly in a certain sense, and a little ghetto for my taste. I've been a thug that robbed a guy in a parking lot. That was wild. I've been a freshly released inmate that's trying to rekindle a relationship with a lost love. It's been so many characters that were, to me, a little bit deplorable. And in that like experience, I started looking at it like, you guys kind of had me fucked up. Like, and then it would hurt a little bit, or not even hurt. It would be a little bit disappointing when the people that knew you and spent time with you would write these characters. And like, more often than none, I was just an asshole. And I never felt like I was an asshole. I always felt like, I go out of my way to be patient. I listen. I try to keep everybody involved. And I respect boundaries. So when you are getting casted, or the only opportunities in in like performative media that you're getting needs that from you, you start looking at it as a deplorable field, and you get back to the basis of your creativity, which for me was poetry, painting, and drawing. I say this to say that recently I got a different opportunity, more along the lines of my field. A woman wanted to support my artwork recently. She's well connected. She has a studio in the middle of the city. She works with artists that, sell their art for far more than I've ever sold my art for. And she wanted to represent me. But representation from her is at a different tax bracket than I have any access to. And actually, this video is about to, like, this is longer than I thought it would be. So I'm going to cut this short. I'm going to post this, and I'll finish this in the next one. All right. See you guys later. And yeah, like and follow. This is just a little rant from me. Peace.